From ancient cults in Egypt and Rome to terrifying groups still operating in secret today, these are evil ancient cults that they try to erase from history. First up, we have the evil Cult of Sobek. This was an ancient Egyptian cult dedicated to the god Sobek, often depicted as a man with the head of a crocodile. As one of the oldest deities in Egyptian mythology, Sobek held significant importance, especially in the regions surrounding the Nile River. The crocodile, a powerful and fearsome creature, was the sacred animal of Sobek. Crocodiles were often mummified and buried in tombs as offerings to the god. Like many other ancient Egyptian cults, though, the Cult of Sobek declined in importance over time, but the legacy of Sobek and his crocodile symbolism continued to be present in Egyptian culture and art for centuries afterwards. Next on the list is the Cult of Cybele or Cybele, it's different pronunciations, but the Cult of Cybele or Cybele, also known as the Cult of the Great Mother Goddess, was a powerful and influential religious movement in the ancient world, centered around the figure of Cybele, a complex, multifaceted deity often associated with fertility, nature, and sovereignty. The cult was renowned for its passionate and sometimes extreme rituals. One of the most interesting aspects of the cult was the practice of self-castration by its priests, known as the Galli. These priests, often driven by religious ecstasy, would castrate themselves as a symbolic act of devotion to the goddess. Extreme act was believed to bring them closer to the divine and to Cybele herself. The cult's rituals were often characterized by wild and ecstatic behavior. Followers would engage in frenzied dances, self-flagellation, so they'd flog themselves, as well as other forms of bodily sacrifice. These practices were seen as a way to connect with the divine and to experience a profound sense of spiritual ecstasy through pain, it seems. In a way, they kind of remind me of the Cenobites from Hellraiser, and that is pretty disturbing. Next, we have Angel's Landing. Angel's Landing, a secluded 20-acre compound outside Wichita, Kansas, was the home of Daniel Perez, aka Lou Castro, followers in the early 2000s. Castro, a self-proclaimed angel and seer, convinced his followers of his divine powers, promising glimpses into the future and the ability to heal the sick. Yet, this supposed spiritual leader was living a life of luxury. He was driving expensive cars, he wore designer clothes, but how was he making all this money? Who was funding all this stuff? It was pretty fishy, and the secretive nature of the compound, the lavish lifestyle of their leader, everything. So this of course piqued the interest of the law, and their suspicions only got stronger when Patricia Hughes, a member of the group, mysteriously died on the compound in 2003. Then the following year, her husband passed away in a seemingly accidental death. Detective Ron Goodwin started delving into Angel's Landing and the lives of the members, uncovering a pretty disturbing pattern. It all had to do with life insurance policies. They were often taken out on members, mysteriously coinciding with their untimely deaths, occurring every 2.5 years or so. Major red flag, and at the center of it all was the elusive figure of Lou Castro himself. Now, they did extensive investigations, but no records of his past or financial dealings could be found. It wasn't until February of 2015 that Lou Castro's crimes finally came to light, and having enough evidence to finally convict the man, he received 20 life sentences. Now we have the Church of the Lamb of God, often dubbed the Mormon Manson family. Ervil LeBaron founded the Church of the Lamb of God after a falling out with his brother Joel's sect. Claiming direct divine revelation, LeBaron twisted a fringe Mormon doctrine, BLOOD atonement, to justify the killing of sinners as a means of spiritual purification. With 13 wives and 51 children, LeBaron amassed a cult following of hundreds who carried out his orders with insane precision. Over 2 decades, his followers were implicated in the lives of over 20 people, including rival polygamist leaders and those deemed traitors to the cult. In 1979, LeBaron was arrested in Mexico and extradited to the United States, where he was convicted of heinous crimes and sentenced to life in prison. Though he passed away in prison in 1981, his legacy of violence kept going. The hit list he left behind continued to inspire acts of violence even after he'd passed away. The dark and disturbing story of Ervil LeBaron and his cult has been the subject of tons of documentaries and true crime shows, and no wonder. One of the first things this guy did when he started up his group was put a hit out on his very own brother. A little later, he ordered his followers to kill his younger brother, Verlin. Heaven's Gate is up next on the list, and oh boy, where do I start with Heaven's Gate? This is one of the creepiest cults I've ever heard of. probably because there's so much accompanying video with them, so you really get a chance to see who these people really were. They weren't just this ethereal thing that you're picturing in your brain. These were real people who, while definitely strange, are more average than you'd probably want them to be, considering what happened. For those that don't know, Heaven's Gate was a controversial new religious movement that gained notoriety after all its members took their own lives in 1997. Founded by Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Nettles, the cult believed in a unique blend of Christian millenarianism, New Age spirituality, and ufology. The core belief of Heaven's Gate was that followers could ascend to this higher level of existence by rejecting their human bodies. They believed that a spaceship was approaching Earth hidden behind a comet, and that by releasing themselves of their physical forms, i.e. taking their own lives, they'd be able to board this vessel, which would transport them to what was essentially heaven. The cult members adopted a monastic lifestyle, abstaining from all adult acts and following a strict diet. They also underwent castration to further distance themselves from their physical bodies. In March of 1997, 39 members of Heaven's Gate carried out their plan, committing mass you-know-what in a rented mansion in Rancho Santa Fe, California. Next is Mithras. The Mithraic cult was renowned for its secretive nature, and its initiation rituals were no exception. These rites were veiled in mystery, with specific details remaining elusive because of the cult's emphasis on secrecy. But scholars have pieced together a general understanding of the process, which involved a series of trials and symbolic ordeals designed to test the initiate's courage, loyalty, and readiness for spiritual enlightenment. Mithraic worship often took place in underground temples called Mithrae. These subterranean spaces created a sense of otherworldliness and added to this cult's aura of secrecy. The movement to the restoration of the 10 Commandments of God. What a mouthful, right? This was a religious cult in Uganda, founded in the late 80s by Credonia Merende and Joseph Kibwatiri. They claimed to be getting messages from the Virgin Mary herself. The cult was all about following the 10 Commandments very strictly, and they even predicted that the world would end on December 31st of 1999. Now, when that didn't happen, things started to unravel. The leaders quickly shifted the doomsday prophecy to March 17th of 2000, promising a huge celebration for the big event. But instead of a party, tragedy struck. During the gathering, a fire was set inside the church, with doors and windows having purposely been blocked off. Around 530 members died in the blaze, and that wasn't all. Other cult compounds were attacked in a series of coordinated assaults. The death toll is still unclear, with estimates ranging from several hundred to over 1,000. To make matters even more mysterious, the bodies of the 5 main leaders were never found. Now we have the cult of Isis. Members dedicated themselves to the Egyptian goddess of motherhood, magic, and healing. It was one of the most widespread and influential mystery cults of the ancient world. Its appeal extended beyond Egypt, reaching across the Roman Empire and beyond. Isis was revered as a compassionate and powerful goddess who could intercede on behalf of her devotees. She was seen as a source of hope and solace, offering promises of salvation and immortality. The cult's initiation rites and secret teachings were believed to grant initiates access to divine knowledge and spiritual enlightenment. The cult's rituals were often centered around the myth of Osiris, Isis's husband and brother who was killed and resurrected. This myth symbolized the cycle of death and rebirth, offering hope for a future life beyond the grave. Now, this last one was called Love Has Won. Love Has Won is a more recent cult led by Amy Carlson, who proclaimed herself to be the reincarnation of Jesus Christ and obviously Marilyn Monroe. She also claimed to be the mother of God, so not only was she Jesus, she was also his grandmother, I guess. She also said she talked to Robin Williams after he died, and apparently Donald Trump was her dad in a past life. She also preached about lizard people secretly running the world, part of a big conspiracy keeping humanity in a low vibration state. The cult has been linked to a series of disturbing allegations, including financial exploitation, physical and emotional torment, and bizarre rituals. So wait, this woman's rituals were bizarre? I can't imagine. Carlson and her followers believed in a mix of New Age spirituality, conspiracy theories, and a sprinkling of more traditional religious beliefs. They lived in a commune and were expected to donate large sums of money to the cult. Members were often subjected to strict dietary restrictions, sleep deprivation, and forced labor. The cult's practices have been widely condemned, and several former members have come forward to share their traumatic experiences. In 2021, 2021, it was revealed that Amy Carlson had passed away. Her body was found in a house in Colorado where their group was based. By the time they found her, she was almost mummified, with her eyes nearly disintegrated. It turns out she consumed a huge amount of silver before she died, believing it would purify or heal. It's just crazy, wacko stuff.